Malaysians aged 18 and above will receive 100 ringgit under SARA. At least 21 Gaza children died due to starvation in 3 days. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Sahih and you're watching World Today. All Malaysians aged 18 and above will receive 100 ringgit one-off credit via My Card under Sumbangan Asas Rahmah SARA program. Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim said this is the first time in history that financial assistance is distributed to all adult citizens in conjunction with the National Day on 31st August. Explaining further, Dato Sri Anwar said this is part of government's efforts to elevate the burden of cost of living faced by the people.
Maknanya kalau suami isteri ada 2 anak, RM400 itu keluarga. Kalau suami isteri RM200. Jadi yang akan memperoleh manfaat adalah 22 juta rakyat yang melibatkan peruntukan 2 bilion ringgit. Ini peruntukan tambahan daripada 13 bilion untuk SARA dan STR. Sekarang ini dah jadi 15 bilion ringgit untuk 2025.
The assistance can be used from 31st August until 31st December this year. The recipients can purchase essential goods at more than 4,100 stores, including major supermarkets and grocery shops in all districts across the country. On another matter, 18 million Malaysians, including youth as early as 16-year-old, as well as those in gig sector, will enjoy a lower RON 95 price at RM1.99 per litre. Dato Sri Anwar in the special address said details on the initiative will be laid out by the end of September 2025.
Pendekatan ini sejajar dengan ikhtiar kerajaan untuk mengoptimum sumber negara bagi manfaat rakyat dan mengurangkan pembaziran subsidi.
No Malaysians have been reported to be affected by Typhoon Bifa in the Philippines and Vietnam. The Foreign Ministry has urged Malaysians in both countries to remain vigilant, comply with all instructions issued by local authorities and avoid high-risk areas. In a statement, the ministry said it will continue to monitor developments closely and provide updates as necessary. The Foreign Ministry also encouraged Malaysians who have not registered with the nearest Malaysian embassy to do so in order to facilitate timely updates and consular assistance. Typhoon Bifa, which has now weakened into a severe tropical storm, has caused torrential rain and flooding, resulting in several deaths and displacement of thousands in the Philippines. Since 20th July, heavy rain associated with the southwest monsoon has severely affected Luzon, Visayas and parts of Mindanao, including Metro Manila. The typhoon also made landfall in northern Vietnam, bringing torrential rain, power outages and infrastructure damage. The typhoon struck coastal areas between Hung Yen and Ninh Binh provinces, sustaining maximum winds of 88 kilometers per hour. The head of Gaza's largest hospital said at least 21 children have died due to malnutrition and starvation in the Palestinian territory in the past 3 days, while Israel pressed a devastating assault. Gaza's population of more than 2 million people is facing severe shortages of food and other essentials, with residents frequently killed as they try to collect humanitarian aid at a handful of distribution points. According to Director of Al-Shifa Medical Complex in Gaza, Mohammed Abu Salmiya, the children died due to malnutrition and starvation in various areas across the Gaza Strip. He further noted that new cases of malnutrition and starvation were arriving at Gaza's remaining functioning hospitals every moment, warning there could be alarming numbers of deaths due to starvation. After talks to extend a 6-week ceasefire broke down, Israel imposed a full blockade on Gaza on 2nd March this year, allowing nothing in until trucks were again permitted to enter at a trickle in late May. However, stocks accumulated during the ceasefire have gradually depleted, leaving the territory's residents experiencing the worst shortages since the start of the war in October 2023. Meanwhile, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said Israel's military must stop killing civilians at 8 distribution points in Gaza. The United Nations said Israeli forces have killed over 1,000 Palestinians trying to get food aid in Gaza since the US and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation started operations. The UN said the data is based on information from multiple reliable sources on the ground, including medical teams, humanitarian and human rights organizations. Kallas highlighted that the killing of civilians seeking aid in Gaza is indefensible, making clear that Israeli forces must stop targeting people at distribution points. Kallas laid out a series of actions that EU states could take against Israel unless the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza improves. She noted that all options remain on the table if Israel does not deliver on its pledges. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen joined the call by saying civilians cannot be targets. She stressed that the images from Gaza are unbearable and the civilians have suffered too much for too long. Gaza Humanitarian Foundation operations have been marred by chaotic scenes and nearly daily reports of Israeli forces firing on people waiting to collect rations in the Palestinian territory. On a related note, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the horror facing Palestinians in Gaza under Israeli military attack is unprecedented and in recent years. He stressed that there is no need to look further than the horror show in Gaza with a level of death and destruction without parallel in recent times. Guterres said ramp-up Israeli operations meant devastation is being layered upon devastation with the humanitarian system in its last gasps.
And now we are seeing the last gasp of a humanitarian system built on humanitarian principles. This system is being denied the conditions to function, denied the space to deliver, denied the safety to save lives. With Israeli military operations intensifying and new displacement orders issued in Deir al-Balah, devastation is being layered upon devastation.
He also said that there is an utter disregard for international law, including international human rights law, international refugee law, and international humanitarian law, without any accountability. Israel's military campaign in Gaza has killed more than 59,000 Palestinians, mostly civilians. Syria has launched investigations into reported extrajudicial killings in the country's Druze heartland, promising to punish perpetrators, including any government-affiliated personnel, after a week of sectarian bloodshed. The violence, which began on 13 July and ended with a weekend ceasefire, started with clashes between Druze fighters and Bedouin tribes, but soon escalated, killing more than 1,300 people, mostly Druze. The Interior Ministry condemned, in the strongest terms, of the video circulating, showing field execution carried out by unidentified individuals in Sweden. For days, brutal videos on social media have appeared to show the execution of people in civilian clothing. The ministry said these acts are serious crimes punishable by law with most severe penalties. It added authorities have begun an urgent investigation to identify those involved and arrest them, adding that nobody is above the law. Separately, the Defense Ministry said it is looking into reports of shocking and serious violations committed by an unidentified group wearing military uniform in Sweden City. It noted that the committee would investigate the affiliation and background of the individuals involved. It said no tolerance will be shown to any perpetrator of violations, even if they are affiliated with the Defense Ministry. On another matter, a Syrian fact-finding committee on Tuesday said that 1,426 people, including 90 women, had been killed during the 6th to 9th March violence in the country's coastal regions that witnessed attacks on security forces followed by killings of Alawite Syrians. The incidents were the worst violence to hit Syria since the downfall of President Bashar al-Assad last year. The fact-finding committee work is seen as an important test of the new leadership made up mainly of former anti-Assad rebel fighters. In a key finding, the committee concluded that Syrian commanders did not give orders to commit violations and in fact gave orders to halt them. The committee came up with a list of 298 suspects involved in violations against Alawites and 265 involved in the initial attack on security forces. Spokesperson Yasir Farhan said the names are not being released publicly for now and have been referred to courts for further investigations, while 31 people have been arrested. US agrees to trade deal with Japan, reducing tariff to 15%. Stay tuned.
Bersihkan penapis penghawa dingin dan tetapkan 24 darjah Celsius untuk lebih jimat.
President Donald Trump said the US has agreed to a trade deal with Japan, which would see a 15% US tariff on Japanese goods. Trump had previously threatened Japan with a tariff of 25% beginning 1st August if a deal was not reached. Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform that the US just completed a massive deal with Japan, perhaps the largest deal ever made. He noted that under the deal, Japan will invest $550 billion into the US, which will receive 90% of the profits. He did not provide further details on the unusual investment structure, but claimed the deal will create hundreds of thousands of jobs. He also said that Japan would increase market access to American producers of cars, trucks, rice, and certain agricultural products, among other items. Trump has been under pressure to wrap up trade pacts after promising a flurry of deals ahead of his 1st August tariff deadline. The announced deal with Japan comes after Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba faced a bruising weekend election that left his coalition without a majority in the upper house. US President Donald Trump has agreed to reduce threatened tariff on the Philippines, but only by 1 percentage point after what he termed a successful meeting with counterpart Ferdinand Marcos. Welcoming Marcos to the White House, Trump called him a very tough negotiator and said both nations are very close to finishing a trade deal. In a social media post shortly afterwards, Trump said that while the Philippines would open up completely to US goods, he would still impose a 19% tariff on products from the Southeast Asian country, a major exporter of high-tech items and apparel. The Philippines was among 24 economies confronted by Trump, with letters this month warning of 20% tariff on all goods coming into the US as of 1st August. The 19% rate is still above the 17% threatened by Trump in April, when he threatened sweeping global tariffs. The trade wave comes despite increasingly close defense relations between the US and the Philippines, a former US colony and treaty-bound ally that has seen high tensions with China. In a related development, Indonesia will drop tariff to zero on more than 99% of its trade with the US and will also eliminate all non-tariff barriers for American goods under a trade deal. The deal, first announced last week, notably lowered a threatened US tariff on Indonesian products from 32% to 19%. Goods deemed to have been transshipped to avoid higher duties elsewhere, however, will be tariffed at 40%. Under the agreement, Indonesia will immediately drop its plan to levy tariff on internet data flows and will support renewal of a long-standing World Trade Organization moratorium on e-commerce duties. The country will also remove pre-shipment inspection or verification requirements on U.S. good imports and has agreed to accept U.S. federal motor vehicle safety standards. Indonesia has also agreed to remove export restrictions on critical minerals and remove local content requirements for products using these commodities shipped to the US. Apart from the lower 19% tariff, Indonesian goods will face certain commodities not available in the US could also be eligible for even lower levy. Both countries are set to finalize the deal in the coming weeks. President Donald Trump has decided to pull the U.S. out of the UN Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO, repeating a move he took in his first term that was reversed by Joe Biden. The withdrawal from the Paris-based agency, which was founded after World War II to promote peace through international cooperation in education, science and culture, will take effect at the end of next year. This is in line with the Trump administration's broader America First foreign policy, which includes a deep skepticism of multilateral groups, including the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and the NATO alliance. White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly claimed that UNESCO supports divisive cultural and social causes that are totally out of step with the common sense policies that Americans voted for. The State Department accused UNESCO of supporting a globalist, ideological agenda for international development at odds with the America First foreign policy. UNESCO chief Audrey Azoulay said she deeply regretted Trump's decision, but it was expected and UNESCO has prepared for it. Azoulay explained that UNESCO had diversified funding sources, receiving only about 8% of its budget from Washington. Russians will face fines if they search online for extremist content under a new law that tightens censorship and could have sweeping ramifications for digital privacy and the fate of WhatsApp in the country. The legislation approved on Tuesday by Parliament's lower house, the State Duma, has drawn criticism from some pro-government figures as well as opposition activists. Opponents say the fines is prescribed of up to 5,000 rubles could open the door to tougher charges and penalties. The law was approved with 68% of the vote, while there were 67 votes against the legislation, or 14.9%, and 22 abstentions. The Ministry of Justice list of extremist material stretches to more than 500 pages. On Friday, lawmakers who regulate the IT sector said Meta-owned WhatsApp should prepare to leave the Russian market, as it was likely to be added to a list of restricted software. The new legislation targets people who knowingly search for extremist materials online, including through virtual private networks (VPN) that millions of people across Russia use to bypass censorship and access banned content. Digital Development Minister Maksud Shadev said law enforcement would have to prove that users intended to view extremist materials and that merely accessing platforms would not be penalized. Moscow has long sought to establish what it calls digital sovereignty by promoting homegrown services, including a new state-backed messaging app, Max, but many people across Russia still rely on foreign platforms. Police used tear gas to disperse angry students in Bangladesh who demanded answers from the interim government after an Air Force fighter jet crashed into a Dhaka school and killed at least 31 people, majority of them children. The children, many aged under 12, were about to return home from class when the Chinese-manufactured Air Force jet flew into the school and burst into flames, trapping pupils in the fire and debris. Students from the school and others from nearby colleges protested as two government officials visited the crash site, demanding an accurate death toll and answers. Elsewhere in the capital, hundreds of protesting students, some of them waving sticks, broke through the main gate of the federal government secretariat, demanding the resignation of the education advisor. Witnesses said police charged them, fired tear gas and used sound grenades to disperse the crowd, leaving dozens injured. According to the military, the jet had taken off from a nearby airbase on a routine training mission. After experiencing mechanical failure, the pilot tried to divert the aircraft away from populated areas, but it crashed into the campus. The pilot was among those killed. The head of the United Nations has called on the surging artificial intelligence sector to prioritize sustainable energy for running power-hungry data centers. Secretary General Antonio Guterres said a typical AI data center, sites where data is processed, uses the same amount of electricity as 100,000 regular homes.
Governments must aim to meet all new electricity demand with renewables. AI can boost efficiency, innovation and resilience in energy systems, and we must take profit of it. But it is also energy hungry. A typical artificial intelligence data center eats up as much electricity as 100,000 homes, and the largest ones will soon use 20 times that. By 2030, data centers could consume as much electricity as all of Japan does today. This is not sustainable unless we make it so.
Guterres called on every major tech firm to power all data centers with 100% renewable by the year 2030. He also noted that the AI industry itself could be harnessed to help with some of the very improvements that are needed. According to a new UN report, data centers currently account for 1.5% of global electricity consumption. That figure is set to more than double by the year 2030. Still to come, Junhao breezes into China Open second round. That and more in our sports segment.
Peralatan elektrik 5 bintang memberikan perkhidmatan 5 bintang.
Starting off our sports segment this afternoon, national men's singles shuttler Liu Junhao breezes into the second round of China Open after beating Japanese shuttler Kenta Nishimoto 21-15, 21-18. The win is considered a redemption for Junhao after failing to qualify for the second round in the last year's edition of China Open. Junhao, who is the world number 26, is scheduled to take on the top seed and world number 1, Thailand's Kunlavut Vitissan. Earlier, Vitissan had to fight back from dropping the first game to beat Indonesia's Alwi Farhan. The Thai top seed lost the opening game but took the next two to go through 10-21, 21-15, 21-18. In the meantime, in mixed doubles category, Cheng Tanji To Iwei also through to the second round after a bright start to the campaign, dispatching Americans Presley Smith, Jenny Guy. They will take on Gao Jizwan, Wu Ming Ying in the round after the Chinese pair beat another Malaysian pair, Hu Pang Ron, Cheng Su Yin, 21-15, 21-16. Arsenal are closing in on the signing of the 27-year-old Swedish striker Victor Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon, according to multiple reports on Tuesday. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta was reluctant to talk about the potential, however, hinted that there was a lot of time left in the window to strengthen his squad. English Premier League, Arsenal have so far signed Kepa Arrizabalaga from Chelsea, Christian Nogard from Brentford, Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad, and most recently, Noni Madueke from Chelsea. Arteta is still looking to beef up his attacking options, with Arsenal reportedly offering a deal worth £70 million for the prolific Gyökeres. Arteta is acutely aware that Arsenal have not won the Premier League since 2004 and that his squad need to go one better after finishing second in each of the past 3 seasons. The North London side will play AC Milan in Singapore today, followed by a clash with fellow Premier League side Newcastle on Sunday. Premier League club Crystal Palace have appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sport against UEFA's decision to remove them from the Europa League over alleged breaches of multi-club ownership regulations. Palace were demoted to the Conference League this month because John Textor, president of the Eagle Football Club, a majority owner of Olympique Lyonnais, also has a controlling stake in Palace. League One club Lyon, who also qualified for the second-tier continental competition, were allowed to compete. Palace said last month that New York Jets co-owner Robert Woody Johnson had signed a legally binding agreement to buy Eagle Football Holdings stake in the club, subject to approval from the Premier League. Palace, however, missed the March deadline to comply with the multi-club ownership rules before winning the FA Cup in May to earn their place in European competition. Nottingham Forest, who finished 7th in the Premier League, will replace Palace in the Europa League if their appeal fails. In tennis, Britain's Cameron Norrie rallied to defeat world number 7 Lorenzo Musetti 3-6, 6-2, 6-3 on Tuesday, reaching the third round at the DC Open. Norrie, seeking his 6th ATP title, captured his first victory over a top 10 player in 2.5 years by eliminating the second seed at the first hard-court tune-up for the US Open. Norrie dropped his opener at Wimbledon and suffered his third loss in a row at Washington. Britain managed only 3 winners in the first set, 2 of them on aces, but dominated the second set to force a third. Norrie saved 5 break points to hold in the 5th game of the final set, then broke Musetti on his 4th chance in the 6th game, grabbing a 4-2 lead on an errant backhand by the Italian. Musetti fought off 2 match points in the final game, one on a Norrie double fault, but fell to the 29-year-old left-hander by sending a backhand beyond the baseline after 2 hours and 7 minutes. Norrie, whose most recent title was in February 2023 at Rio, snapped a 14-match losing streak against top 10 foes with a fight back after taking a time violation to reset in the 5th game of the last set. In cycling, Valentin Paré-Pente became the first French winner on this year's Tour de France as he edged an enthralling stage 16 on Tuesday, piping Ireland's Ben Healy atop the mythical 1,910-metre altitude Mont Ventoux summit finish. Behind them, Jonas Vingegaard attacked overall leader Tadej Pogačar relentlessly, but defending champion tracked the Dane all the way up the 15-kilometre ascent to extend his lead by 2 seconds. The battle for the overall lead, however, was eclipsed by a frantic fight for the stage win between Healy and Paré-Pente. Healy, who wore the yellow jersey for 2 days after winning the Bastille Day Stage 6, appeared to be heading for his second stage win as the two riders approached the finish of an epic tussle. Paré-Pente looked completely drained, but cheered on by the home crowd, he found a final surge of strength to overtake the Irishman with 20 metres remaining. Healy's consolation was to be awarded the day's combativity prize while moving up 1 place to 9th in the overall standings. With 2 more Alpine stages coming up and 5 more stages left, Vingegaard and his Visma team did everything they could to hurt the Team UAE leader Pogačar here and can only hope they have tried the pugnacious champion. And that wraps up our bulletin this afternoon. In our top story, at least 21 Gaza children died due to starvation in last 3 days. At least 21 Gaza children died due to starvation in 3 days. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. for more on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. Alternatively, you can stream us online on RTM Clicks website and mobile application. Till then, I'm Sahih Samsudin, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat Disantuni. Goodbye and thank you for watching.